Hello and welcome to Book Club. We have a very special guest today, and along with myself, Emily, and Nikita, we have Charles. Charles is a huge icon in the podcasting industry. He has been doing it for, I believe you said, as long as podcasting has been around. So from the
Yeah.
start, which was about what, 2007, 2008,
4.
2004. All right. We don't need to talk about how old we were then, because that doesn't need to make you feel bad.
I was 260 in 2004. You
There
can
you
do the
go.
math.
But we are super excited to have you, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. And I didn't wear my helmet, so I don't know how special of a guest I can be today, but we'll
I
try.
mean, it's however you're feeling for the day. We just roll with it.
It is.
And it's only
It is.
Wednesday. You can't pull out a helmet on a Wednesday. I mean, it's too much pressure. You can't live up to all the expectations inside.
I love it.
Well, since you started podcasting so early, can you give us an idea of what drove you to podcasting?
It was a need for attention, to be honest. Back in 2004, I had an active band, and that's always a hard road, no matter how you cut it, is to try to do music. And I was okay at it. I was never going to be great at it, but I just loved it, and I was working on it. Thought I was going to be great at it. And I was working in a firehouse at the time, and this local radio show that, since I no longer had a commute because I walked to work, it was less than a mile. I was walking to work and wasn't listening to the morning shows anymore. I was like, well, I'm going to go on their website and see if I can listen to it, like if they recorded it or whatever. And all of a sudden they had this little thing that says, listen to our podcast. And it was not a podcast, but it was their segments. And honestly, it was their worst segments, not their best segments. I don't know why they did that, but it's their worst segments cut into little MP3s, and they were 5-6 minutes long. And like, oh, what's this? And I downloaded it, hated what they did, but went, what's a podcast? And it was August of 2004. And about that spring, Adam Curry had really pioneered a lot of things with podcasting. He had been an MTV VJ and tried to be was a radio host for a while, but he didn't like being told what he could say and couldn't say by advertisers and those kind of things. So he tried to find a way just to do it on his own. And I mean, nowadays, we still have issues, right, with YouTube and Facebook and whatnot, because they still are platforms. They still can shut you down, but it's a lot more free. It's a lot easier to do your own thing now. Then it was you had to buy time on radio. Internet broadcasting was kind of up and coming. There was some tools out there to do it. Anyway, he got with another guy who basically invented what's called an RSS feed, or an enclosure, where you could code it, tell it, here's where you find the MP3 audio, and then somebody could just put it into what was called a aggregator. Now we know them as like Apple Podcast or Spotify or those kind of things. And it does all the stuff in the background, and boom, there you have your show. So I went and looked up podcasts, and they had already done enough from the spring to that late summer that there was a site called Podcast Pickle. I'm not sure why Gary called it that, but it was a listing of podcasts. So I started finding some and listening to them and got inspired, and had all this gear. I mean, my camera's kind of in, but I actually have a rack with monitors over here and amps and everything else. There's speakers everywhere. But I had all this gear from being in a band. So I'm like, I'll take a soundboard and my computer and a microphone and see what I can do. And then it took forever to get anybody to listen, but you felt like people were listening. It was just this cool thing to figure out and do. And that's what drew me in.
That's awesome. So did you start with talking about music, or did you start with kind of talking about more of your passions and hobbies, or just a little smattering of everything?
I started by being about as offensive as I could be. The first show I did was with my brother-in-law, and we had this sense of humor that was just, there's jokes you tell that's in your house that should probably stay in your house, and that was the show I made. And I just always had this producer in me. Like, I was growing up, I was always getting my hands on, well, this could be better for the show, or this could sound better, or do that. So I learned all kind of different audio and video tricks and things. So I produced a show, and it was supposed to be like the morning radio show, but uncensored. We could tell whatever horrible jokes we wanted. It was not a great project at all, but I learned from every project I did. I mean, I was cutting in stuff you couldn't get away with today because it was copyrighted. I was taking DVDs of Family Guy and cutting audio from it and just popping it. And that's when my wife and everybody else said, "Man, you really know when to put those audio clips in." But I'm like, I don't want to be a producer. I want to be the star. And ultimately built vehicles to where I talked about my life interests and niches. So I did a show called What I Believe, which was challenging different thought processes. I had some jailers on and some other
That's
police
cool.
officers to talk about profiling and what profiling meant and where the wrongs are in it and why it comes around, those kind of things. And so ultimately, it was always just about the things I found interesting in life.
That's really cool. I did criminal background checks. I did customer service for a criminal background check company. So we got to see a lot of that
Gotcha.
and just kind of seeing how it plays in the descriptions they'll put in the files and in their
Yeah.
records. You know, you get a lot of the like mom heart tattoo on left arm, but you get a lot of the other detailed ones, and it's like, do we have to describe them that way? But that's really cool that you kind of
Yeah.
took that avenue with working at a firehouse and then talking to law enforcement about
Yeah.
profiling.
Well, it turns out that was the show that gave me my start. It was called Two Guys, One Brain. And they were two jailers in Vancouver. I'm like, oh, man, I'm listening to some Canadians, and I really want to hear how things are different. It's Vancouver, Washington. I was very disappointed when I found that out. It was a joke. They teased me a little bit, but then I got to produce on their show. But yeah, they were two jailers telling the parts of the stories that you were talking about, the things that were entertaining, that were human, that didn't dehumanize people, and didn't really, I mean, if you listen to their show, you would think, I need to go work in a jail. And they're very clear. It's like, no, there's a lot of bad stuff. We just don't talk about that part because the world knows about that part. We're talking about the what made this funny, why this was an interaction, giving a kudos to this prisoner for being clever type of
Yeah, and
deal.
you have to appreciate it. I love the court transcripts. There's one girl in particular on
Oh, yeah.
TikTok that I follow. She's a lawyer in LA, and her name's Reb Maisel, and she will read court transcripts. And it is absolutely hysterical, the things that people will say, even the judges. And she's pretty sarcastic and dry, which makes the delivery just excellent. And she'll wear her sunglasses upside down while she delivers it. And she's reading iconic court transcripts, part whatever. I think we're in the hundreds now.
Yeah.
But that's how she kind of blew up on TikTok. I mean, I still eat those up because they're hysterical, especially when you've worked in that industry or adjacent. It just seeing the outlandish things. I love it. I can't get enough of those. But
Yeah, there's a part to the darker side of humanity that is very enthralling and without being the true crime, actual
right,
horribleness of it.
because I am definitely a true crime follower because I just think it's fascinating, especially just the inner workings of a person's brain. That's the part I'm like, I want to know why. And I was first majoring in psychology, and then I was like, "Oh, you got a lot of math in that. Like, not for me." But I definitely had wanted to work with children too, because it's just the impacts of how parents and kids and the interactions of that, and just really people's minds. It's crazy when you start to really peel back the layers and look at like the true crimes and what's happened, how they got there. So I am a true crime follower from that perspective, not necessarily like, oh man, what they do, let me see that gore.
Yeah. I listened to one called Small Town
Yeah,
Murders where there are two comedians and like we don't make fun of the victims, we don't make fun of the families, but we do make fun of the morons that commit the crimes. And they talk about how horrific some of it is, but the more I listen to that, the more I realize people don't
no,
think. They get to this over almost a unifying thing for them. They typically don't deal with serial killers and those kind of things. It's just these literally small towns that had a crazy murder in it. And almost the most defining common factor is just getting caught up in your own thoughts and not talking to anybody and just reacting in a moment and never thinking, it's like, man, I can't believe more of humanity is not dead, to be
I
honest.
know. It's insane. Especially now, it's just like we're all just kind of throwing life in the blender and hoping for the best. I feel like I might be the one
Yeah.
like blueberry that gets shot out of the blender. Like, we're gonna come through it, but unscathed, I don't know. But that's really cool. I really like that. So I have to ask about your picture in the background. Is that a crypto picture? Is that a pig?
Yeah, hold on, let me move my camera a little bit and you'll be able to see. if I get that back far enough. Yep. There we go. That is Inosuke from Demon Slayer. So it is a dude with a boar's head on. It's a boar's head mask that he wears because he made up his own breathing technique in the anime. And then this is most of this is from Demon Slayer. My daughter got these at Hot Topic. I think these were the cards for the shirts that they had. They're the cardboard cards. And it's right before Christmas, like 2 years ago. Apparently she was in there and they were selling them for $1. So it's just a couple of Demon Slayer. And then the one right behind my head is Panic at the Disco because I took her to her first concert for that.
That's a good concert. I have seen them.
Yeah.
Brendan Urie is really cool. Oh, go ahead, Nikita.
He is something else. He is definitely.
Yeah, getting into Demon Slayer, I've only got a couple episodes in, but my boyfriend is saying it's a really interesting story. No spoilers, please.
You've got a great ride ahead. I'll tell you, the first season they took a different tactic after the first season. The first season is like 26 episodes long, so I was like, oh man. And at the time I started, I knew there was like 3 or 4 seasons. I'm like, man, that's a lot of content. They really do about 2 seasons and 1 in the first season. It's really good, and they just keep ramping it up. It just gets more intense and fun as you go. But then the next seasons, the second one is a movie that then they cut into 7 or 8 part season, and then the third one was a season. The fourth one was a movie. But none of them are 26 episodes after that. They're all about 7 to 10 episodes. Okay. But it's so good. And you got time to get caught up because in September, the first part of the final 2 or 3 movies is coming out.
Oh, that's really exciting. I have a lot to look forward to then.
You do.
See, I'm a binge watcher. I can binge watch anything for the most part. As long as it's TV shows. Movies, I'm out. I don't have the attention span. I will fall asleep. I leave the room. I put movies on for my dogs, and that's about it.
So you're missing out. You're missing out on some good
I know.
stuff.
I do watch comedies, though. As long as it's under, like, that 2-hour mark, I'm in. But if it's over 2 hours, I'm like, I have so much more I could be doing. But comedies, I'm in. Okay. So, like, The Hangover, I've seen that probably 19 different times. Benchwarmers is one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah,
it's an underrated and underloved movie, but it is one of the best. It's comedic gold, especially the whole macaroni and cheese theme throughout. I'm a big mac and cheese girl, so it's probably why it appeals to me. But I've never watched Demon Slayer. Is it on Netflix or something? Is it?
Yeah,
yes.
I saw that.
Crunchyroll and Netflix.
My husband probably
everything's on Netflix now except for the newest movie.
Yeah, my husband probably has seen it.
Anime.
Yeah, my niece is into anime, and my husband watches it a little bit, and then his sister does too. But I usually tap out around then.
See, my boyfriend's into it, so he'll watch all of it, and then he'll tell me what I have to watch, and then I'll go in and watch what's like the best one.
The highlight reel of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I got started. Go ahead.
I'm like a big questions person when I watch shows, so that I can always ask him questions since he's already.
Oh, you're annoying.
My wife will do the same. And there's some things I have seen. There's some things I'm like, I don't know. I'm literally watching the episode you're watching right now. I have no idea where they're going.
That's the answer to my husband all the time.
You should have your whoever watches it for you guys to say whichever, because I do the same thing. I got into anime maybe a year and a half ago, because my co-host of Wise and Nerdy, he was into it. He was talking about Demon Slayer. One of our segments we do on that show is what are you nerding out about? He'd bring something from that show every once in a while, and it sounded cool. Because man, I'm really telling you, if you're going to get started in anime, you should start with this one because it's this redemption arc, and you'll just really love how they do the characters. And it was right, and I did. And so I really got hooked in, and I wanted more stuff along those lines. So I'll tell you two to recommend that you could have whoever try it and then give you the answers, whatever you want to do with it. But Solo Leveling is one that I'm going through right now, season 2 out. It's very kind of serious and dark, and it's a real world setting where like Dungeons and Dragons type portals just suddenly started opening up, and monsters and demons started coming out of them. At the same time, there's this great awakening in humans that subhumans got powers and became hunters, and then they're ranked kind of like a video game. They're ranked E rank being the lowest, and S rank being like God tier. And they are the hunters get licenses and join guilds, and they go into these dungeons and they fight the bosses and they bring back loot, and that closes the gates. If you don't go in and beat the boss, the gate stays open and monsters come through, all that. So that's a really good one. It's very, if you get past the first 2 episodes, because it hits you right in the first 2 episodes, You get that, you're going to go for a ride. It's amazing. And then one that's more lighthearted, that is literally playing a video game. It's called Shangri-La Frontier, and it's a real world setting where the guy puts on a VR. He doesn't get sucked in anything. It's just he puts on a VR helmet, and then you're just watching him as a character in the game, but he's thinking and talking in his head like a gamer and interacting, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I read a webcomic a while back with that similar premise. I think it was like Hardcore Leveling or something like that, where he like lived in VR and did all these games. It's like a fantasy RPG in VR. It was very interesting.
You know, it might have been based off of that then, because that's very similar.
Or maybe the other way around. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I am mostly not a cartoon girl. Like, I can't get into Family Guy, South Park. I grew up around South Park, though, so, like, I know more of South Park than Family Guy. But I also
Sure.
I'll watch the little clips. If it's a recap, I've probably watched it. Like, those, like, 30-second videos or, like, the 5-minute recaps of shows. Love those. I can get all I need to out of any of those. Like,
You know what? That's
that's
fair.
how I also listen to my news. I can't sit there and be sad, but like I'll listen to the 5 minutes and I'm like, oh man, I am caught up. I'm good. I also just use my mom for that too. She's also my news person. I told her when last time we had bad
Yeah.
weather, I was like, excuse me, you didn't tell me we were supposed to have a tornado. Granted, my mom lives in California still, so she's 3,000 miles away. She has no business being my weather person, but she is. And I said, excuse me, we could have died, and you just were like, good luck, babe. Like, you didn't tell me there was supposed to be a tornado or anything. She goes, well, it wasn't planned for your path, so I didn't say anything. Well, that changed.
No,
It changed.
I think it's a mom thing where like my mom lives in Utah, so 2,000 miles away. She'll text me, "Did you hear about the storm?" And it's like, "Yes, I know."
Yeah, she's like, how's your weather? And I'm like, sunny, I don't know, hot. It's 80 degrees in
Oh
April.
yeah, every once in a while. Right, every once in a while. That's how I discover bad weather's supposed to be happening. Is I'll get my friends from out of state be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah," and then I'll start googling what's going on in Georgia. I'm like, oh, there was a riot in Atlanta. That's fine. Oh, there's tornadoes in North Georgia. I didn't realize. Yeah, but yeah, they'll be like, "Tell me you're okay."
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's how I found out about the last set of California fires because I kept getting like, "Is your family okay? Are they impacted?" I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. Did it rain?" Because like we don't drive in rain. We don't know what to do. Like we're not made for that. I just used to skip school if it rained. So I Googled it and I was like, "Oh, we're on fire." And so I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, they're fine. They don't really live close there anymore." But it did end up burning most of the city that I grew up in, so that sucked. But
Mm.
not the Palisades one, the Eaton fire that was like kind of towards Pasadena. And so that one ended up taking out most of places we went in high school. Once we finally got our license, we were out. So that sucked. But I was like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, I was like, thanks for the heads up.
It's such a weird phenomenon where it's like I only care about the weather that's like right by me. I'm not gonna know about what's going on by me, but I'm also the same person who checks into my friends and like, "Are you okay? I heard about this one thing happening that's like in the same state as you."
It's my favorite.
I think it's like I care more about them, even though I don't know exactly where they are, than I do about myself.
Yeah, it's my favorite. My husband's family is from England, so his parents are the only ones here. He's first generation American. So his cousin will come to visit, and I guess something had happened in Virginia when she was here. And so her friends in England were like, "Charlotte, are you okay? Like, what's going on?" She's like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And they're like, "Well, something happened in Virginia." And she's like, "I don't think you understand how big the states are." So she's trying to explain that, like, one state is so many of their countries. And she's like, I think it fell on deaf ears. But yeah, they have no idea Virginia is, like, however many miles away. And it's essentially, like, what, 6 or 7 countries length? And even Georgia is however many countries. So she's trying to put it in perspective. And she's like, I give up. She just says now she's like, I just tell him, yeah, I'm fine. It doesn't matter where you are. It can just be in terms of whatever, because it's insane to them that we can drive 4 hours and still be in the same state, whereas they
Right.
drive 4 hours or take a train for 4 hours and they're in 7 different countries or something insane. And I'm like, what a life.
I love how the number grows every time you compare countries. There.
I
By the time we're done, it's like 50 different countries in 2 hours.
I
I
am
promise.
so geographically challenged, it's not even funny. I used to think that California was halfway across the country from Georgia. My mom let that one ride. She never corrected it until I looked at a map and I was like, wait a minute, Mom. I was like, I feel like you should have told me that's not halfway. Like she used to kind of say like, oh yeah, halfway, right? Oh, like you didn't say
She's
it.
trying to teach you sarcasm. You
Well,
didn't learn that either.
oh, I'm better at it than she is now. But growing up, I was like, it's like halfway across the country. What are you talking about? I'm like, you're just wrong, Mom. She's like, yeah, okay.
So why is this called book club? What's book club?
So basically, with our project, we could not come up with a name. I was using ChatGPT. We were searching high and low, and we'd already decided kind of what our project was going to be about in terms of hobbies and creativity and kind of that avenue. We ended up, Julia was sitting there and she goes, what about book club? And we all just kind of were like, book club, I like it. And it just kind of stuck.
And I mean, with like book clubs, I don't know if you've ever been a part of one. They never talk about the book. It's always something else.
Okay, no, I have not
Oh
actually
yeah.
gone
Oh
to
no,
a book
book
club.
club. I always joke and I'm like, it's just for shit talking. Like book club is just to talk shit about whatever and drink some wine or mixed drinks, whatever. But like the book,
Where are our drinks? You didn't tell me you could have
I know, I'm
drinks. I'll
sorry.
day drink
I
with you.
am a big day drinker because then it leads to a nap.
It does.
And it's like the
It
best nap
does
of your
indeed.
life. Yeah.
I think that's where society went wrong when we decided that drinking in the daytime is somehow horrible.
And honestly, I concur. I think we should reverse it. Day drink and then work at night.
I mean, okay, I understand there's a lot going wrong with this comparison, but the one thing right with this comparison is watch Mad Men. They did their jobs. They had
Yeah.
alcohol right there in their offices, you know?
I don't see anything wrong with it.
I mean, you know, some days are pretty rough at your office.
Yeah. We used to, this is terrible, but when I was at the background screening company, sometimes one girl would have mini bottles in her car, like in the glove compartment or in the center console. And usually I guess she forgot
Yeah.
to take them out. But there were some days and I was like, let's just do it. So we just send it. And I was like, that's better. Because there are some days it just isn't, like when you're working with the courts and trying to like ask, hey, can I get this back? Somebody's trying to get a job. And they're like, no, thank you. It's just as hard. And when you get yelled at, you know, customer service is its own beast.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when you're getting squawked at on one end and the court clerks are like, I don't really feel like it. Okay. I understand that, I guess. We're going based off vibes.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a background of like food service, that's actually, you know, pretty normalized. Get your little shift drink, you know, head to the bar. Some days are pretty rough.
I think is when it comes to working with people, an on-shift drink should just be like a requirement. Just one, you know, a drink of your choosing. But if you have to deal with the general public, it's like that's your reward.
Customer service is very
Just a
difficult.
little treat.
You know, because you meet some like
People
amazing.
are the worst.
They are. They're so mean, and I have a problem minding my own business and not telling them to not be mean, especially now that I'm not working. I'm like, if you're not nice to this person, so help me. Like, they are just doing their jobs. They don't make the rules.
Yeah. On the flip side, though, you meet some like really cool people. Working as like a bartender, what I did for a little bit, I've met some people. Like I've become friends with people that like I would have never talked to before, and I do cherish those relationships.
And it's a great way to make
It kind of
connections.
balances out like the rude people that, you know, get mad at you for doing your job.
I think that's why conferences were invented.
Yeah, I've been to many of a conference where you ask somebody what's in your tumbler or your stain lane, like none of your business. They say,
You can
Yeah.
find out.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's why conferences were invented. It's like you deal with these people all year long, especially work ones, and then they're like, we're going to have a conference where everybody meets up in one centralized place with an open bar, and then everybody becomes friends again. Like all the work tension fades away as soon as you get some food and some drinks that aren't coming out of your pocket. The world just kind of rights itself for another 6 months, and then you do it again.
Now, I think we could really make a difference in our everyday job. It takes all of us, though. It takes all of us. But if we made it to where it was more of a, all right, let's just stop for a second and be human. You're human. I'm human. What is it? What is it that is stressing you? Because I'm not stressing you. I'm just asking you for this report I was supposed to have or whatever it is. You know what? It just because what we do at conferences, I just came back from one last week, is you get away from the environments. You don't have all the environmental triggers that trigger your stress and this kind of thing. that you associate with that office door or whatever. And the two, you just talk and you release some of that stress. And if we would just do that at work and be like, let's take 5 minutes and laugh together and mess around. Okay, cool. Now, how do we get back to work in a positive and productive manner? Even I failed at that when I ran a company, because you just get caught up in the stress. But if we would all just make that the norm, instead of just, it's Nikita's fault, that's her department, it's her job, it's not my job.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's
well,
definitely, I think,
Yeah, I think
a failure in like corporate anything. It definitely becomes the, well, that's not my job, but it's everybody's job.
yeah,
It's like, let's just do it together. Let's just take, like, if you can't handle it, just let me know. We can figure it out. If you're swamped, let me know. But I was always taught to, like, you have to take emotions out of your responses, which is really
yeah,
hard to do. And I am
yes,
not
it is.
very good at that. I am a hothead by nature, the red hair. I'm redheaded and a Taurus, so I'm stubborn as all get out, and I have quite a short fuse. So I can get very heated. But so taking the emotions out, and not just like people that are weepy, the ones that cry though, I still can't handle them. But I'm not a crier. I don't do emotions like that. People that you're like trying to give them feedback and they start crying, I'm like, I gotta go. This isn't for me anymore. But it's hard to take the emotion out, and you still have to at the same time try and find that empathetic balance, even if you don't feel empathetic towards them.
Yeah,
It's hard.
yeah,
yep.
I think
One,
like
one,
Mickey. Working in food service, one thing I say a lot is like, this isn't a hospital. We can like take a second. Someone's food may take a little bit longer, but like, let's take a second. Let's figure it out together. Get some water so we're not all so stressed.
yes, we fail to take care of ourselves and take care of others. Number one, in EMS, which is the field I spent 30 years in, emergency medical services, that's pre-hospital care, basically. The number one thing they teach you in school is you got to take care of yourself as far as scene safety. You walk up to the scene safe. Yeah, I'm not going to get shot. I'm not going to get caught on fire. Nothing's going to fall on me, because if something hurts me, I can't help anybody else. But we refuse to translate that from being on scene to our lives, because we being the paramedics in the field, we routinely don't drink enough water. We don't eat correct meals. We don't sleep right. We overplan our days off because we're on shift for so long in XYZ. And that's not just EMS, that is the world. And the trick to getting along with humans is to not care, which is the opposite of everything we've ever taught, and everything that's kind of born into us is I don't care if book club succeeds, because why should I? And we don't ask that question. It's like, why should I care? I do care that we're gonna have a great time together here, right? And then it becomes a great time together. I had to stop and ask myself so many times in working in companies and running companies and even building the podcasting empire. Why do I care that this person over here hates what I'm doing? Why do I care that the person that hasn't even talked to me is in my head going, well, negative, negative, negative. And there's a great TikTok I came across. I might have shared it in the class. I don't remember, but it's like, when we start thinking what other people think about us, like, oh, they're going to think this, we're conspiring against ourselves. We're committing conspiracy against ourselves, because nobody is sitting there saying that but our brain. And so you have to stop caring, and then stop caring, you become those people that change the world that everybody loves.
I
in the
love
end.
that, because I'm big on that. I told Nikita, I was like, podcasts are hard for me because who the hell's going to care what I have to say? Most of the time, I don't care what the hell I have to say. I just yap.
Well,
I
there's
just
that.
blab. I don't know. I mean, I keep my husband entertained, and I generally think I'm pretty funny now. I did not grow up funny. I was not the funny girl. I took things way too serious, and then all of a sudden, I just didn't, which helped. I mean, I don't know. Could be SSRIs, could just be me growing up. The possibilities are honestly endless. It also could be a touch of the Adderall. Who knows? But either way, it's like, as we kind of grow up and figure that out, it's hard. It's like just remembering that you don't have to care what everybody else thinks or says.
Yeah.
And even if nobody cares what I have to say, that's okay too. Like, I don't have to care about that, because obviously my expectations are already there. Like, if that's the mindset I already have going into it, it's like, that's okay. But going further into it, it's like, do I need to care? And the answer ultimately is no. It just is what I want to do or
Right.
what we want to do and talk about.
I used to when I was first married, I got in arguments with my wife, and to me it was logical. You know, when you see somebody else's issue, you can see it a lot more clearly than you see your own, or they see theirs. And she was going on about something. I'm like, who cares? I mean, everything was just this surface level, didn't really mean anything at all. And I'm like, who cares? She goes, well, I care. I'm like, why? And she didn't have an answer. She's like, because I want to. But she would actually fire back at me like, why do you care about this? And we'd fight because I wasn't dealing with my own stuff either. You do have to have a human connection. One of my first successful shows was called Bear Crawling, and the tagline was brutal honesty with a human connection. And that is where I found my most success was, as far as building who I am, was not caring. Just, I said, this is my platform. Nobody can listen. I don't care, because I have to have one place in this life, one place in my life right now in this world where I can just say exactly what I think and not give a damn about anybody else, not hear the pushbacks, not being told I'm wrong, none of that. So I found a closed room and a wall and a microphone, and I talked to the wall, and it did well. And it surprised me. The audience had built, came together 2008, probably. I can't remember the exact year, but it was a bill in California called Prop 8. It
Yes.
was about gay, one of the first major bills about
I
gay
marched
marriage.
for that. I
And
was, I think, 12,
okay.
and we ended up, my niece is in the hospital in Hollywood. She's in the NICU when she was born, and we walked out, and my sister's like, let's go. Yeah, Prop 8 was a
Yeah.
big deal for all of us.
It was a big deal. And I'm like, I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to talk about, just wanted to tackle it. And I'm like, okay, I'm only going to really, I had in my mind the audience I was going to be talking to, and it was going to be a live call-in show. And I actually got from the spectrum, there's not even two sides, there's a whole spectrum of views on Prop 8. I got almost every bullet point in those spectrums to call in, and every last one of them said they enjoyed the
That's
show.
awesome.
And I'm talking about from rednecks who I hate gay marriage to somebody living in California going, you stupid redneck, I'm a lesbian, and why are you taking my rights? But I was the unifying factor. Yeah. And I was like, this is crazy. I just never envisioned that audience. It was
really
crazy.
Cool.
And it comes down to not caring, just saying what you want to say. And I still struggle with that. That was, what, 2025 now? So let's call it 15 years for easy math. It is about 15 years ago that I talked about that. And even today, I hold back from saying some of the things I think because I'm going to offend somebody. I'm afraid. See, I'm conspiring in my head. I'm afraid I want to offend somebody. I'm going to piss somebody off. I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings. But it is okay to disagree. And that is the key. Tyra and I do not see eye to eye on everything. We probably, if we push the lines, which we don't want to, because that's how you say friends, you let some things go and go, that's your life and this is my life. But I imagine if we push the line on some things, we probably would fight, but we choose to not, because at the end of the day, we have a lot more in common. And it doesn't matter. But I can say, I'm not going to get into politics. What's something controversial I'm talking about? It's not politics. Animals. I could say, I hate animals. And I do. Now, I don't hate them because I think haters would actually go out and try to eliminate animals from this world. But I'm going to stand on the controversial, I hate animals. She obviously loves animals. Well, we can go back and forth in a fun way about that, but she's not trying to change me, and I'm not trying to change her.
That's the key.
That's the key.
That's exactly what matters. Even when it is politics, I've asked like general questions like, can you explain to me why this is what you support? Because I'm trying to understand, and it's like, I'm not trying to change your opinion. You know you can't change mine, but I'm curious, like, what is it? And I think that makes for healthier relationships with people too. It's just the opportunity for that brutal honesty you were talking about. It's like, tell me with the understanding that our opinions are going to change, and that also is okay. But at the same time, I want to learn. I want to know why. And I don't have to agree with you for us to be friends, but I also know where that boundary is now of things that like we can talk about or not talk about, because I have to set that boundary. Otherwise I get too emotionally invested in it, or just angry. Angry is my like default setting, I think. So it's just a little fire gets lit.
It feels like everybody's, and maybe that's just human nature, everybody's default is angry. And it comes from fear. Fear and anger go hand in hand. And if we don't know something, we fear it. We fear change. We fear a lot of things in this world. And I have found the next step from not caring. Now you have to respect. You talked about that. You're not trying to change them; they're not changing you. But what you can have discussions, right? So you have to have respect, but respect is not necessarily
Right.
caring. I care about my wife, so there was stuff she told me in my life that I disagreed with, and turned out she was right, and I changed. And then there's stuff I disagreed with, but had to make the choice of, okay, right now she sees it, her reality. And I do hate it's my truth, but there's some truth to that. It's perception of reality, and if your reality is, until somehow you see something greatly different, you view me this way, okay, I can play into your reality, because at the end of the day, the choice is, it's been great being here, but I'm out on any given
Yeah.
situation, or some version of yes sir, yes ma'am. And it's not necessarily they're telling you what to do, but it is, okay, I'm choosing to be here. So if I respect her, I respect you, or respect her, I respect whoever I'm working with, then okay, I can respect that what I did here got an intent that I didn't intend, right? I'm trying to achieve something with an intent, and I did not achieve that. So I'm going to alter my path, not change who I am, but alter my path, my tactics, my way of doing it. And then that next step you have to have is I lost, because you said something about respect. There was another step about the one I'm struggling with now, the one I'm working on now. Actually, is a little biblical, because I grew up in the South, I grew up in the church, but it's those with the ears, let them hear. And that's what that means to me. Is I don't remember what the actual scriptural reference was. I just know I learned it in church, whatever. But what that means to me is I can't change everybody. I can say something that I believe in. I believed in gay marriage. I'm a straight man, been a straight man all my life, and will probably continue to be so. But I believe in rights of people. And why, if you ask the question, why should I take away that person? Why should I hurt that person, really? If you just narrow it down, why should I just smack them?
Exactly.
Where is it hurting me? If you ask the simplest questions, you go, none of my business. And that's really what it comes down to. But I will stand on being an advocate, being an ally all day long, but that's my choice. But I know that there are people in my life, I don't talk about that stuff around them, because it will not change them. It will not, and they have no respect for me in my life. So they will just berate me. So you have to understand, you can't care about people. Or you can't care what they think, I guess. You cannot care what they think. You cannot care if you're going to hurt their feelings, because I needed my feelings hurt many a time to become a better human being. You have to have respect for people. And then you got to understand, only give your energy to those who listen.
And who reciprocate. If they're willing to have those discussions with you, and healthy discussions, not the berating, not the talking at you, but discussions. I mean, I think that that's really what it is. I'm with you all the way. Just because I live my life one way, like I am straight, I'm married, but I will always support, because my bottom line is, why do you guys care so much? Like, I don't care what my neighbor's doing, except when, their trash flies all over the street. That's not really cool, but otherwise, I don't care. They can play their music, they can wear what they want to wear, they can do what they want to do. I don't need to be that concerned with what happens in that person's life. And that's like, I can support them, we can be friends. I don't care. Because as long as they keep their trash in their trash can, which isn't often, in their defense, the wind does take it out. But, trash bags are there for a reason. They're unused, but that's always my thing. I'm like, why do so many people why are you up in everybody's business? Just care about yourself. That's the important thing, is just care about you.
And there are definitely some universalisms. You're talking about the trash and stuff. They're better together, right? A better world. You can't just change your oil in your driveway and let it run down into the street and get in the grass, because it hurts not just, it hurts the environment, it hurts all of us. So that's the thing that, okay, let's become together on things. So we've lost the view of the greater good.
Absolutely.
Right. And as always, it seems like every argument now is about my side. Nobody wants to take time to ask two questions. One is, how can I understand? And the second one is, do I even need to understand? I have worked and interacted with my share of trans people. I accept them as people. I do not understand. But I also go, do I need to? No. Do I need to view them as a human being? Yes. End of story. And there's very, very, being in the medical field, there's very tiny, minute, 1% of the time, less than 1% of the time, that the gender you're born with matters to medicine. It's minute. The rest of it doesn't matter. So non-binary, don't understand. Cool.
Yeah,
be you. Whatever makes you feel like you. Exactly. And that's where, I'm wearing my jersey today with Dragon Con, but that's where I very much flow with Dragon Con. And Dragon Con is that. We're a place for you to be you, and you'll find your people here. no matter who
I
your
love
people
the
are.
let your freak flag fly. No matter what it
Yeah.
is, just let your freak flag fly. And it can be about anything. Everybody has their thing, and I think that's what is so interesting too, just about people. I mean, people fascinate me in so many different ways, but it's like the things that people are interested in, and maybe we're not taught or grown up, like they didn't grow up with these things, but as they became an adult and found their own thing, it's like, yeah, I actually really like this. And I think that's cool because it really is everybody's individuality. You can see the top. There's another one over
Yeah.
here. They're both messing up the screen.
So,
We have,
and you know what's funny is when you come down to, as you mentioned your dogs, obviously you're an animal person. What it comes down to with certain things is, do I need to understand? My wife's huge, and I'm about
yeah,
boundaries. We have the dogs. I pet the dogs. They're fine. I wouldn't have them without her. I don't take enough time to train them, so they do things in my house I don't appreciate. But I can understand that's on me. That I could have done more. But she will let the dog sit on her chest. And he's a Chihuahua, but he's kind of muscular and heavy. And he's like, "Oh man, it hurts." I'm like, "Don't." Then when you say no, make your no be no. You put him down, say no, and she won't. But I finally, it took. Man, we were married like 25 years, and it finally took me just going, "It's her
yeah,
life. Let her have it," right? Because I would fuss at her with, why do you keep saying no? Then you kiss on them, and you're sending the wrong message. And I'm trying to change her. I was trying to change her instead of accept her and go, well, if you don't want a dog sitting on your chest, that's your problem.
yeah,
you know, and that's where things are. There's a place for animals
yeah.
in life. There's definitely a place for companionship and service animals and all kind of other things. I'm just good
Yeah,
without
and I
it.
grew up with dogs. I'm really only a dog person. Cats are not my thing. I think they're cute from afar. That's about it. But dogs,
No, cats are
yeah,
evil. I hate
I had
cats.
one growing up that was not selected. It was dropped on my mom and I, and my mom is like, she doesn't even like women. Like, why do we have this cat? She only really liked men. She liked my dad. But when my dad moved out, he didn't take her. So my mom's like, we're stuck with this damn thing. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
she hated women. She used to throw up specifically, right? Like you'd open the front door and it's right there. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like that's evil.
Mm-hmm.
But dogs, once we got our first one, so we have two, and then this dude is, I call him our part-time dog. We watch him throughout the week for like Monday to Thursday, and he just stays with us. So he's our part-time dog. But it's like I'll let my dogs do a whole lot more than what I let somebody else's dogs do. And I feel like it's, probably the same with kids. You're like, my kids are cool, but those ones.
Yeah, somebody a long time ago, one of the shows I did, coined the phrase, "You choose your hypocrisy." We all choose our hypocrisies, and if we can understand that too, it helps us
I
get
like
along
that.
more.
That's a good one. I did listen to snippets of your, is it Wise and Nerdy? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'd listened to that. Have you heard of the Mark and Brian show? So
No.
it was in LA. It was a radio show, and it reminded me of the Mark and Brian show a little bit. My dad loved Mark and Brian. He would play them all the time because they were more of like the raunchy kind of humor, skirted the lines of what's acceptable for
Gotcha.
radio.
Yeah.
But just the banter between you guys reminded me of Mark and Brian. And when they went off the air, it was like a morning in LA. I'm surprised they didn't host a wake because it was such a long running radio show. And I think they ended up taking it somewhere else for a little bit, but it just didn't work. But they were definitely like LA icons. My mom is like, "Does your dad still listen to them?" And I'm like, "Well, not anymore because they stopped." But he was, and he's listened to them for my whole life. But that's what your guys' banter reminded me of. And they were real funny. They were just two guys that just kind of hung out. And it had the same kind of banter and just tone to it. So it made me
Yeah.
laugh thinking about the Mark and Brian show because it'd
Well,
been a
good.
while.
I'll definitely take that. I love it. Well, yeah. What I find to be that secret sauce there is, one, you got to work with somebody you really enjoy, and I have learned I only want to work with people that find me funny. So I find me funny, and I want to because I believe in laughter and
Yeah.
everything, and it just it you learn things when you're laughing. You release good endorphins and you de-stress and just so many things. And I just get bored. Now there's definitely sometimes when serious just hits and it's good. But for me, I like to interact with that kind of thing. And so working with Joe, it was really, we've just, again, we built this thing of I don't care. The way we came together was, well, let's just see if it works. I didn't care what he thought of me. He didn't care what I thought of him. And we just built a relationship And it is, and he's still today. I mean, he'll say things that I disagree with, and vice versa, and it's fine. But then that energy of we drew an imaginary line, like we wanted our show to reach all ages. And at first, I mean, we'd really skirt. Well, we still don't say 4 little words and whatnot on the show, pretty much, but we skirt certain things. And I found that when you take the ability to cuss away, you just add other things in, it gives a twist to it, kind of like that terrestrial radio would do. But you talked about towing the line. So the line is really this imaginary making what could be edgy jokes, right? It makes you think about it, like, I'm like, oh, I just told a dirty joke, but it really didn't. But it's still that energy that's the same, and that's what I love about what we do there. Is I know. I mean, man, when I do my Fandom Face Off show, it's a lot more like morning radio shows, and it's a lot more, I'll make, when I say adult jokes, I mean, it's a reference as an adult, what I mean.
It's like
kind
SpongeBob
of thing.
jokes.
That don't do, yeah.
Or Shrek.
Yeah.
Shrek is a great
my generation
one.
is, yeah, man. Yeah, I was about to say Wild Robot, man. That one recently went real hard on some of those
I need to
one-liners.
watch that.
But yeah, it's good. But yeah, if you don't have online, people don't know where to go. But there's definitely some things. I used to say this: all my shows are family friendly if you're my family. 'Cause I will bluntly talk with all my kids. We've taken them to drag shows. We cuss around them. We talk about things. So it's like, if you're my family, nothing's rated R. It's all family friendly. But you might be a family of homeschool. Now it's homeschool, so I can say this. You might be a family of homeschoolers. That means you're sheltered and you don't see the world. No, nothing I do will be family friendly. Not a single thing. But everybody has their own definition of family.
That your family's like the kind that I was raised in. It's like everything goes. The more inappropriate, the funnier we probably find it, especially with timing. I appreciate your time.
Well,
It's
been fun. I appreciate being on and being able to chat. I always like new adventures.
This was fun. I enjoyed it. And this is my first podcast, so I feel like we did pretty well.
Wow. Being your first one, I think you did pretty good. Well, good. And I am sure that Tyra will let me know how it went on her end. You should end with something horribly controversial.
Oh, man.
Pineapple
does go on pizza. Pineapple does belong on pizza.
I dig it. I eat pizza, but... way to be controversial. I love it.
That's my hot take. What is your hot take?
I was going to say, kill the proletariat, but yours is more controversial. So
might depend on the crowd. I don't know. We'll wing it.